Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to continue the Let's Talk series, and with this video, we're going to cover Jackson guitars. Now, I got to say, before covering this series, I wouldn't have really thought of Jackson guitars for a strong selection of student guitars, yet I see quite a bit here at Sapulpa Guitar Academy. I'm really glad that someone brought it up. I don't think I had this idea. Somebody somewhere. Sorry if I'm not crediting the right person, but so we're going to cover Jackson. Oh, and I also did a poll on YouTube here because that was brought up, Ibanez and Yamaha, all of which I'm going to do videos over. But in this video, we're just going to do Jackson. And again, with every video in this series so far, I'm going to cover essentially their most inexpensive through about $500, as that's primarily the price range that I see and hear my students ask me about, and I think that's really about the best price range I would put in a beginner guitar. So I'm, Jackson guitar history. Basically one guy you need to know about is Grover Jackson. This is the Jackson of Jackson guitars. He has not been involved with Jackson guitars for a very long time, but his line of work and his reputation and the things he's done, we could do couple hours probably on that. There's actually a great interview with him on the YouTube channel, Tone Talk. I'll link that down below. Remind yourself, Chris, to do that too. I'll link that down below. It's an extensive interview. Some of it gets more technical, but he talks about his history, obviously with Jackson, Wayne Charvel. Very interesting story. Speaking of Charvel, Jackson and Charvel currently owned by Fender, and have been so since 2002. That's about enough for the history lesson. I know why y'all are here, and we want to talk some guitars, right? So let's just jump right into it. First off, I want to say the Jackson line of guitars, my sort of overall impression of them, based on what I've seen, I've worked on them here as well. I end up working on a lot of student guitars, and it's changing out potentiometers and bad switches and, whatever kind of stuff happens. This thing hums too much, or just doing little fix-up jobs. And with the Jacksons that I find, look, we're talking imports here. Jackson, obviously started as a kind of a custom USA shop, obviously. Now it's almost entirely import. I don't know. I know they do a couple of made in the USA guitars, but yeah, they're primarily import at this point. But, with Jackson, the emphasis here is really on a hard rock, heavy metal guitar player. So they definitely lean heavy in this direction. This is definitely Fender's metal side. So like I always like to do for my younger players, I want to start by talking about the shorter scale. Usually these are called 3/4 scale guitars. Jackson's referring to them as 2/3 scale guitars. I'm not sure. My math, not so fantastic. But I know that this is a shorter scale length. This is going to be 22.5 inches. And there's a great diagram actually below. By the way, we're using the Jackson website. The Jackson website is excellent for this sort of breakdown and analysis. I highly recommend going on their site if you have any questions about the composition of parts and wood and things like that. I found it to be extremely helpful. Again, they're part of the Fender family, and we use the Squire website. Again, whereas Epiphone, their site, if you do some research, I'm sure it's fine, but for what we were doing, it was pretty bad. I really couldn't do a filter from low to high on pricing and things like that. But anyway, great diagram down here kind of showing you when we talk about a shorter scale length or a shorter neck, just what that means. So to give some perspective, there's the 22.5 inches from the bridge to the nut. So on a Fender Stratocaster, 25.5 inches. I will correct that here on the screen if I'm wrong. And a Gibson, like a Les Paul, is going to be 24.75 inches. It's weird when I hear interviews with people like famous rock stars and stuff, and I believe that they believe this, but when they talk about how they can notice the difference between, again, a 25.5 inch to a 24.75, and they're building their custom guitar, they're talking about, well, I really wanted it to be a 24.75 over the 25.5, and maybe there is a difference. I'm sure these guys play guitar way more than I do, but all that being said, with the smaller guitars like these, now one thing to note here on the Jacksons, I don't know if that's the case with the Fenders or Squires, I should say. These body sizes are about the same. It's really just the neck that is going to be smaller on these. So something to note, they're not smaller bodies as far as I can tell. I've had a student bring one of these in, funny enough, the Minion Rhoads which we'll talk about a little bit later. So this is the Minion Dinky. So it comes in about 3 different colors, very distinct. My favorite of this, like you care, is going to be the neon green. Just go full on 80s shred fest. Again, if your kid's not into metal, this is not going to be the episode. This is not going to be, if you're not into metal, this is not going to be your episode, and this is not going to be your guitar brand. These folks, they're never going to do a semi-hollow as far as I can tell. I could be wrong. Hopefully, maybe not. There's probably something in the really expensive series that's a semi-hollow, but as far as I know in this student section, we're all looking at shredder bass guitars. Anyway, you can see the defining marks of a Jackson guitar. We'll kind of use this as our example here. The Jackson headstock here, the big pointed headstock, these shark fin inlays. These are all sort of, if you're new to guitar, these are sort of the identifying marks, things that we look for in the Jackson guitar. The Jackson branded pickups, you'll find those in, by the way, you're going to find these pickups, exact pickups from what I can tell, in this guitar and pretty much every guitar we're going to cover in this episode. So be prepared. There's not a lot of variety pickup wise, but that's not really what they're trying to do here, so I don't fault them for that. But I really love the simple layout. It's a hardtail guitar, which is really great for a beginner guitar. You know how I feel about, or maybe you don't, but if this is your first time watching, I'm not a big fan of variable floating bridges, Floyd Roses for that first guitar. I love that there's an inexpensive option for those guitars, but for a new student, I think that's a more than they can handle. So there's the neon green, there's the metallic blue burst, and there's the gloss black. Amaranth fretboard, you're going to see that a lot on this website with these guitars. It's a rosewood substitute. I'm not a wood expert, but you'll see when you're guitar shopping, you'll see amaranth, you'll see like Purple Heart, you'll see Pau Ferro, you'll see Indian Laurel. If it's a dark wood and if it's not ebony or rosewood, that's what we traditionally consider like the darker woods are what we see. Both of those have had, all sorts of issues for exporting and being endangered and all that. Again, I'm not an expert on this. All I know is that manufacturers are looking at alternative woods. Amaranth is one of them. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure you're fine. At some point, it's all going to be some sort of like man-made sort of thing. They've already been experimenting. Isn't it like Richlite, some sort of experimental non-wood deal? This is great. People love Chris speculating for the next half hour. So we're going to move on from the Minion series on the Dinky side. By the way, while we're kind of talking about it, Jackson really has, I think it's like 4 or 5 really distinct shapes, one of which is the Dinky. Now, you'll notice that Charvel offers a Dinky, but they call it a DK. Again, there's a very tangled history in there. But this is, and there's another reason you can see that the Minion is not, like the body size looks about the same in these photos here too. So that's the discussion about the Dinky. So, okay, let's get back to the Minion here because there is a Rhoads series Minion. So the Randy Rhoads, the Rhoads shape, it's this flying V type guitar here. I'm going to zoom in. This is one of their other iconic, shapes that Jackson offers, obviously named after the late guitarist Randy Rhoads. Again, this is the shorter neck version, but you get, so this is essentially one of the guitars I've seen come in here. It's got the shorter neck, the regular body, and the kids love, I say the kids, God, I'm so old. The kids love this shape. I'm not a fan of this shape, only from the practical point of view of when you practice, you have to kind of put a leg in between those fins, and it's sort of a classical guitar style of playing. Again, it's aesthetic, and if that's what motivates you to play guitar, so be it. But I've seen a couple of those in there because you really can't, play the guitar off. I mean, it's just all neck. It's all neck with like a nub of a body. I mean, and on these especially, you really can tell. If you ever play one of these guitars, really cool guitars, by the way. And I will say, in defense of all the things I just said, it's a simple layout. Again, it's a hardtail which is awesome. It's got the definitive shark inlays and the Jackson headstock. And let's also appreciate for a moment that Jackson, as far as I know, is the only brand that doesn't put any sort of identifiable mark that I can tell on the headstock that tells people this is a student line of guitar. You know, there's a Squire, there's Epiphone. Those sort of identify to student brand or affordable brand, things like that. And they sort of become the scarlet letter a little bit, you know, and sometimes players sort of get real self-conscious about playing those brands at certain points, which is a little silly, and we could do a billion episodes about that. But Jackson, for whatever reason, doesn't do that. When they launched their import line, I mean, I'm trying to think of how long ago. They weren't doing this when I was a kid. When I was a kid, Jackson guitars was super nice, super expensive. No one carried them, and if they did, it was used, and it was unobtainium. I mean, when I was a kid, a New Mexican Stratocaster made in Mexico was unobtainium at probably $400 or $500. So, I mean, I certainly was not going to be affording a Jackson, but this is a whole different world, and Jackson has really changed that around and brings about some really affordable options. So, again, this is a 2/3 scale. The price we haven't really discussed much. You know, pricing is a little higher than both. It's higher than Squire, but not higher than Epiphone. Epiphone had those power players, really nice looking kind of mini Les Pauls. So these sort of sit in that same area, sort of sub $200. And like I said, I've had students I had a student bring in the Randy Rhoads Minion. I think they're fine. You know, again, I don't love that shape for a new student. It's a really awkward guitar to play for anybody. And, but what do I know? I have students who will bring in Floyd Rose guitars as their first guitar too. And, you know, you just got to roll with the punches, man. That's what they're going to do. So get away from the Minion series and start in on the most affordable line, the lowest cost, whatever Jackson that you can get, $159, which take a moment to appreciate that this company is putting out a sub $200 guitar, and it's got a tremolo system on it, which is amazing. I mean, I don't know how much faith you want. It's a 2-point trim. I don't know how much faith you want to put into that 2-point trim on a $159 guitar. As far as I know, too, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, these pickups, we're going to see these a lot. I know I'm going to mention it, but same pickups that were in the Minion, and they're going to be the same pickups that you're going to see in, I think, just about every guitar. On the back of the headstock, it doesn't mention it. I think these are all made in China. Who cares? China, Indonesia. They're not made in the U.S., obviously. You can see the Jackson branded tuners. I believe these are also going to be the same tuners you're going to see on every guitar. When I was doing research for this, I didn't see where they were using any different tuner, any different pickup system. And they do have about 2 or 3 bridges, and you're just going to see those. My fair opinion, though, the Jackson tuners, like I said, I've had about 4 or 5 Jacksons come in here since I've been doing this, and they've all held tuning really well. I have no complaints over the tuners, and usually, you know, seeing some cost-effective measures. Again, since we've got the zoom in on the back of the neck here, let's see if it'll let me do this. You can see the scarf joint. So when you see less expensive guitars, you're going to have necks that are going to be made of more than one piece, and it's going to be done in that way where you're going to have essentially a scarf joint. Let me see if I can get a little better picture. Yeah, that gets you a little better picture of the back of the neck, and you can see that scarf joint. You can see where my mouse is tracing the back of that. Not a big deal. You know, it's just this is where they can get you a $150 guitar. And you'll see kind of an interesting neck carve or back of the neck carve. Again, you're going to see this feature on a lot of the inexpensive guitars. Again, this dinky shape is really cool if you're kind of a budding guitar player and you kind of want to get into metal. This does gives you the high output humbucking pickups. They are going to be ceramic. And to be fair, you know, you could buy this guitar and you're getting the same pickups that you would get in probably a $500 to $700 Jackson. I don't know how much difference there is in the quality of pickups. The things that you're going to see change in this line as we go up in price is mostly going to be aesthetic, and we can go over that too. And, you know, some features too. There's some arch tops and things like that they're doing. It's really cool. So $159, you get 1 volume, 1 tone. You get a tremolo that, God help you if you try to use it. You know, if I were you, I'd unscrew that tremolo arm and just put it in a put it in a little drawer and hang on to it for a while if you ever sell it. 22 frets, if that bothers you. You know, with shredders that you tend to want 24. I will say too, I forgot to mention on the Minions, you get 24 frets on that little tiny neck. I say tiny, I mean it's like 2 inches shorter, 3 inches shorter. Sorry, 3 inches shorter. You do get 24 frets on the little Minions here. So, and then I'm sorry, I forgot to mention there is a Minion with maple fretboard. There you go. It's a little bit more. So we'll kind of move along here. We were looking at the JS11. Now we're going to look at the JS12. I hope you can kind of see where the pricing and the model numbers and things are going along. $189. You do get this essentially in some different colors. I like the metallic red. That's kind of cool. Same pickups, same switching system. You get a 2-point trim. You get different color options. I mean, you get 24 frets. I should also say too, you get 24 frets on this one, and you're also going to get, I believe, you get a 12-inch radius fretboard on this one. The same with the JS11. Now, I do believe they changed all of that to a compound radius. After this, they're going to go from a 12 to 16, which means it's a 12-inch radius near the nut and tuners, you know, and then as you go down the neck, I think past the 12th fret, it goes to a 16-inch radius, which is going to be flatter. I've got a Charvel that does the same thing. You'd think I'd know more about this, but eventually just know that that's the deal with a 12 to 16 compound radius. If you're not familiar with that, just means the radius of the neck goes from kind of flat to a little bit flatter. There you go. There's my professional advice on that one. Like I said, I don't know what we're getting with this one compared to the first one, except for different colors. Again, here you go. Quality in China. I wouldn't let that bother you, by the way. I mean, if it bothers you, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money to get away from that. And again, 24 frets, 12-inch radius. I like a 12-inch radius fretboard. I don't think as a first-time guitar player, that you're going to really notice the difference between having a 12-inch radius fretboard and a 12 to 16-inch radius fretboard. I give you my thoughts on the neck. I know that when you're playing metal or when you're playing sort of, because I think they're using the same neck style. In my research, I wasn't noticing that the neck carve was changing much either. It's comfortable. I wouldn't say it's as thin as some of the Ibanez get. Sometimes the Ibanez go to like that wizard neck. To me, that's where I try not to be a picky person about what kind of neck I play. The wizard neck gets a little too thin for me. I also have enormous hands, so it's something to consider. But I find these necks on the Jackson fine to play. I have no complaint. They feel substantial enough. I feel like the Charvels are maybe a little thinner, and I don't have an issue playing those. So, and again, I have enormous hands, but I also love guitar. I don't really want the size of a neck to affect whether I play the guitar or not. And I just like guys who get into weights and it's like, how much does the guitar weigh? It's like, well, dude, are you taking this thing on a world tour? You know, how much are you really standing up with this guitar? You're going to sit down in your chair, your lazy boy, and you're going to crank it up. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that, but who cares if that Les Paul's 11 pounds, right? Okay. All right. I'm goofing, but let's get back to it. So this is honestly, I think, a really cool feature here that Jackson started offering, again, about 10 years ago on this import line. This is a JS series Dinky arch top. So arch top meaning that instead of a flat top, you can kind of see a little bit of a beveled arch here. But other than that, I believe this is going to be 24 frets. There's that interesting neck carve back there. Same type of maple neck. There's a scarf joint. There's the Jackson tuners. There's the Jackson 2-point trim. There's the Jackson pickups. There's the layout. It's a three-way switch. Like I said, a lot of this, at some point, we're just kind of getting into aesthetics. You get a nice arch top here. All these bodies so far made of poplar. Again, it's a cost savings situation for Jackson. It's also a weight situation for new players too. Again, for new players, genuinely, I mean, if you're like 12 years old and you weigh about 80 pounds, you know, an extra 10 pounds might be a little too much for you to handle genuinely. If you're asking about my favorite color, the natural is kind of cool. I mean, they're going to make it of a different wood. No, not that I care about that, but who knows how good it's going to look. Again, you get the shark fin inlays, and again, it just says Jackson on the headstock. There's no like student level or J by Jackson or whatever. They're just slapping that Jackson name on the headstock, and I think that really counts for something. Like I said, I've never encountered Jacksons while I've worked on them. It's never been, hey, I just bought this and it sucks. It's been like a student bought a Jackson that was like 10 years old in a pawn shop, and the pawn shop had it for like 2 years, and then, you know, like the frets were practically growing algae on them. I mean, I can't blame Jackson for that. So again, as we talked about, this is going to be the first of the line that's going to offer a compound radius neck, which I got to say again, folks, under $200. And this is all retail pricing, by the way. When I say retail, like list. And oftentimes you can work deals out. You go to a Guitar Center, a mom and pop, you can probably get yourself $20 off that guitar and not put anyone out of business, you know. So you could easily get a little extra off that. And even if you didn't, I mean, I think you still got a pretty good guitar here. It looks cool, looks legit. You know, and as we're guitar players, I've talked about this before, we're really drawn to shapes, and you know, I get that guitar and maybe after a couple of years I'm playing it, and it could be something too where a kid maybe just changes out the pickups. Maybe they really like the guitar. Like I said, I've played these. I played them at this level. I haven't played this arch top specifically, but I played those necks. Yeah, I mean, so again, same pickups, same 2-point trim, tuners, everything. It's an arch top. You get a couple of more colors. You get a nice satin black. Again, satin is a nice cost savings. I believe the metallic blue is sort of a satin. So again, there's your non-gloss black. You get a natural. Obviously, there's no finish on that, or whatever, true oil or whatever the heck they're putting on here. Natural oil. I don't know. And there's a white one for under $200, right? That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead. This is a little unusual. Again, I would never recommend this for a first guitar for a new student, but Jackson offers a 7-string model at under $200, which I think is a really cool way to get into a new type of guitar. I've talked about this before, where I love Squier offering semi-hollows, like a $250 range. They've got a 12-string they just put out through the Classic Vibra they've had out for a couple of years. Again, it's $400, but 12-string guitars traditionally, especially electric ones, are not super inexpensive. So I really love Jackson coming out with this 7-string model. Again, it's a satin black. I don't believe it's offered in any colors. It's just black. It's the old Henry Ford special. You can have any color you want as long as it's black, which, I like the cool extra. They're sort of special fin light. They're not quite as prominent, but still very unique. That headstock, you could love that or hate it. I don't love it, but I get it's a 7-string, so they may not have had an extra space for that traditional headstock. Again, it's the same maple neck. I'm going to imagine the carve's going to be very similar. Same tuners. They just added an extra one, obviously, for the 7-string. Again, a compound radius fretboard, which is great, and you get a little longer scale length. Obviously, because you're dealing with a 7-string guitar, they want to give you a little bit more there. 24 jumbo frets. Again, I don't think that we're going to go back to 22 frets, but I could be wrong as we go through here. This is a hardtail. Again, it's a cost savings feature. It's under $200. I really don't think you're going to get a Floyd or any sort of same pickups. I'm imagining it's a 7-string version of the same pickups you get with a 6-string and a similar layout. But, again, it's under $200. I don't know how much this sculpting is really helping your fingers. I'm trying to think about how I'd play. Because, it doesn't recess until it's here. Maybe I'm getting too far. It's $200, Chris. Here we go. Let's back up, okay? So we saw that. You do start to see a left-handed model for Jackson. I'm a little shocked that you have to get to $239 to get to the left-handed model, and it is in just one color. We do get some lefties in here. I am a left-handed person playing right-handed, so I've always kind of got a little, I always feel for the left-handed player, because there was a moment there where I thought I was going to be a lefty on this too, and $240. Again, same pickups, tuners, it's black. It's an arch top though. That's nice of them. This is the 329 version. Whereas here we go. So they make this Monarkh. This is Jackson's Les Paul-esh, like single cut is what they would call this to avoid any sort of legal issue. And this came out, I can't remember, a couple of years ago. I remember seeing videos for it. I got to tell you, I'm not impressed. I'm not into the shape. It is a newer shape for them, and I get it. They want to try and find some sort of single cut solution for those maybe who are looking for that meaner and leaner Les Paul. You know, take this and put a dinky shape in there. It's the same layout, same pickups. This is a Tune-o-matic. I think this is the first time we're seeing a hardtail, a bridge tailpiece, you know, Tune-o-matic style. First time I think we're seeing binding on these as well. We got some binding going on here. $240. I don't love that layout where they have the switch in the middle of the tone and volume, but again, that's a cost-saving feature for the guitar. They offer this in a couple of different colors. They even put binding on the headstock, which is interesting. So they do offer a nicer version, it looks like, too. We'll probably go into those a little bit later. I guess not. Why are they so expensive? I don't know. Some of them are more expensive. I guess it's the only thing I could think of is the burst finish, because it's not the pickups. The pickups are the same. The tuners are the same. They do this thing, the pickups crisp, clear tone is channeled by a 3-way toggle switch. It's like when you go and move into an apartment and they're advertising like wall-to-wall carpeting. Well, you know, where else would the carpet go but to the wall, you'd hope, right? Again, 24 3/4 scale length, the Les Paul scale length going on here. It does have a compound radius. It's a bolt-on maple neck, obviously, because you're dealing with a $200 and $300 guitar. But yeah, you get the Tune-o-matic style 3-on-3 headstock, which we know is such a great design. There's a video that shows him playing it. Again, it's just a shape. You know, if you look at the back, these are maple necks. You know, again, I'm trying to think of, like, I guess that's a decent cutaway for the shredders. You know, you get down in there pretty good. Is it 24 frets? It's 22 frets. Okay, plastic nut. I mean, I don't know why the $330 one is. This is kind of where I like Jackson overall as a brand. This is where I get a little weird. Like, what am I buying for an extra $100? Like the $159 guitar to me would function just as well as the $300 guitar if the hardware is the same. You know, and it becomes an aesthetic game at a certain point. You'll also see here, this goes a little higher into price. It may be next on the price line though. You'll see this new line of 7 strings we just showed. I guess new to the lineup, they have a Rhoads hardtail and a 7-string. Oh, I'm sorry. They have the Rhoads style V. So you can tell the Rhoads style has sort of an offset V. I guess that's how you describe it. One V is kind of pointier than the other and sticks out further. And then there's the King V. Mistake me if I'm wrong. I think that's a Kerry King thing. Although right now he's with Dean. So that's interesting. Again, it's got that headstock, which you get on the comments and people don't seem to love that. But you can see there's the more equally balanced V. That's also in a 7-string hardtail. You can see the tone, the 3-way, kind of in the same place, same pickups, same tuners. But again, it's also a 7-string at $250 in a V configuration that is, it's so much. It's gonna be so much fun to play. It just forces you to stand up and play. Just imagine your 10-year-old just rocking that thing out full size. Okay, let's take a look at the next kind of era into this JS. I say era, but like you can kind of see the numbering system going on here, right? Where we start off with a 12, then you get a 22. We're kind of on the 22 still, okay, with this line. We're still in the 20s. The price did go up a little bit, and you're probably asking yourself, well, gosh, for $269, what more do I get? Do I get some upgraded pickups, upgraded tuners? You get a quilted, you get a veneer, and I'm trying to figure out. Look, to be fair, it looks great. It's $270. You get the shark fins. You get all the things you get in the other ones. You get the veneer. It's the price increase. It's the art top here. Oh, so when they say quilt maple art grain top, I believe, I'm not 110% certain of this, I don't believe that's even a veneer. So lesson on how this works, right? So when they talk about maple veneers, quilted maple tops, or flame maple tops, and when people say, well, it's just a veneer, it's not a real maple top, or it's not really a accurate thing to say. A veneer, essentially, is just a thinner piece of wood. So when a Gibson Les Paul gets a maple top, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 3/4 thickness Okay, so when you get a veneer, like an Epiphone, like say the newer Epiphone, like the nicer 59 reissues, I think are a veneer. They're a thinner piece of that, of a top. And it's, again, a cost savings, right? A manufacturer can use that top for one guitar, or they can slice it really thin and use it for multiple guitars, right? So that's the theory behind that. When we talk about maple art grain, from what I understand, this is more of a printout, a very nice printout, on very nice. To be fair, I hear they look really nice. I'm seeing this a lot more on like Ibanez. I bet you, this is a Fender-owned company. We're probably seeing this on Squiers, and we may not know about it, but essentially this price upgrade is getting you, there's that 2-point trim that you saw on the $159 guitar. And again, you can look at the specs, you can look at the models, everything is the same. Jackson high output humbucking for pickups. It just shows up multiple times, and you can do a little, part search, and, they're just kind of using these same parts. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. They're not, they're not a bad company, but just know that the upgrades that you're getting are not going to improve the quality of the guitar. It's going to make it look cooler. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Sometimes we do things because we want, sometimes that's why we spend money on guitars, if we're going to be honest, because they look cooler than the other guitars. So, and to be fair, these look pretty cool. If I was like 10 years old or 12 years old, I'd want the cool striped ones more than maybe the black ones. I don't know. Depends on what kind of stuff I'm into. So here's the version that gives you an arch top and the veneer, or the art grain maple top. Who cares at this point if it's a veneer or if it's a printout? It looks cool, but that's what you're getting. Is it a hardtail? Oh, it's a hardtail. That's a weird choice, huh? Again, all these are compound radius fretboards. This is all 24 frets. Yeah, so 24 frets. Why did they go with a hardtail on this one? Poplar body. Does it say the art grain? Beautiful maple arch top and bolt on, so it might just be like a veneer. It's got the compound radius. These are pretty dark bursts. Oh, that purple burst is, again, I personally, as a 42-year-old man, wouldn't buy this, but I like this. In fact, I think I've got a student who's got, I think, a one with the Floyd. We'll have to look at this. I'll have to see what he's got, because I think it's this burst. It's a cool color though. Well, as we go down the line, we'll see if it's on there, but he's one of my students who got the Floyd for his first, not this first guitar, it was his second guitar, but I still gave him a little bit of grief for it, because I was like, come on, man, you're killing me. You know who's going to be tuning this Floyd, right? So anyway, that's, we're getting to $300, by the way, for this. Again, look at the $159 guitar, look at the $299 guitar. What are you getting that's different? You're not getting the compound radius fretboard. You're not getting the arch top with the veneer, purple nurple, whatever veneer. Granted, okay. You're not getting binding on the, which is cool looking. These things look really cool with the binding. I'm not gonna argue with that. But again, everything here is aesthetic that I've just pointed out. You're still getting the tuners, still getting the pickups, still getting the bridge. Still getting the same neck. These necks are probably all coming out the same, and they're just slapping. I don't know that for certain, but I would imagine a lot of these necks go on to different guitars within the line, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I've played these guitars. They're really good for the price. I think they hold up really well. I gotta say, like I said, the tuners on Squiers and Epiphones I usually have had issues with, but I don't say that about the Jacksons. I've really not seen that issue so far. Let's take a look at this guitar here. This is the JS series Dinky Arch Top, the JS24 DKAM. Okay, let's try to play the game, right? So JS is the series. 24, I'm going to assume it's got 24 frets. If it doesn't, that's going to be disappointing. DK for the dinky shape. A for, I don't know. And then M for maple. Okay, so the cool thing about this, all joking aside, $329. You get a black stain. You get a red stain, so you're not getting a gloss finish. You're seeing the same fretboard. I'm sorry, not the fretboard. You're seeing the same bridge. You're seeing the same set of pickups. You're seeing the same switching system. You're seeing the same headstock. You get the shark fin inlace. You get the binding. Now, you'll notice there's obviously something different with that fretboard. It's a little darker than usual. So what you're getting with this guitar is, you still get your 24 frets, you still get your compound radius, you're getting the roasted, or as they put it, caramelized maple neck. So I have a Charvel. That's like a 2019, and the lingo is the same. It's the caramelized maple neck. And if you look down here, I'll kind of read the jargon along with this. Read along. Before I do that, just note as well, this is a mahogany body with an arch top, which is kind of, you're getting into some nicer woods here that we're into $300. So kind of a nice feature. Also, by the way, this has a retail price of $329. I know for a fact that on eBay right now, there are vendors who are selling like new for $229. $229 for a roasted maple neck and a mahogany body with pickups and a 2-point trim, and it's a Jackson. It looks cool, right? You got $230 and you're looking for a shred machine. I go for it, right? So really cool how that works. We're starting to move away from poplar at this price point, especially when you have no gloss finish. You really have to depend on that wood being pretty nice when you're using a stain like that. Okay, so let's read here about the caramelized maple neck and fingerboard. The caramelizing process removes moisture and impurities in the wood that improve stability. Aside from improved durability, a caramelized maple neck and fingerboard add exquisite style and beautiful grain definition and smoother playability for crystal clear, bright tones. Oh, wow. Crystal clear, bright tone. First of all, if you believe that your neck is providing tone on your electric guitar, I would even argue on your acoustic guitar. I just don't. I believe that you probably believe that, but I personally have a hard time with that. But what I will tell you is that a caramelized, i.e. roasted maple neck, I'm not sure, by the way, this is kind of where I get suspicious why they use caramelized instead of roasted. I'm kind of curious as what that process is, because they use that same process in my Charvel. And I got to be honest, what I understand the roasted maple process, when they roast maple necks, is that the necks are heated through some sort of process that removes, like they say, the moisture. I'm not sure about the impurities, but the idea being is that it's removed the moisture. This is moisture that's normally still in the neck. Like when you buy a new guitar or you own a guitar, and let's say it's a really heavy winter outside, and so you're blowing the heaters in here, and you get a lot of this fret sprout, right, where the neck shrinks, the moisture's coming out of the neck at that point due to the low moisture in the room, and the frets are poking up on the outside of the neck. That's the fret sprout. And the idea here is that the roasted maple neck, one of the things it can do is prevent that fret sprout from happening, because it's preemptively taking the moisture out of the neck. It's a great idea in theory. I will say I don't think it's a perfect process. And at $329, I would wonder if that's the same roasted maple neck or the same roasting or caramelizing process that's used on, say, a $1,500 Charvel, or maybe a really nice Jackson. And to be fair, there's not another Jackson in the line that really gets into the roasted maple neck until you get to $1,500. So it's a really interesting choice to offer a budget option. And I gotta say, like I said, $329, you're seeing online pricing at $229. Hit me up if you have questions or need trouble finding that. I might link that sale down below as well. I think that's a great deal. I mean, it's worth to pay $230 to see just how good that roasted maple neck is. But I think that's one of the Jacksons, I think, where you pay a little bit more for an upgrade, and I think it's deservedly so. Because if you can prevent fret sprout from happening, again, it's not perfect. My Charvel just got the littlest tiniest bit of fret sprout, so it's not perfect. I'm not blaming Charvel. I don't think there's they're lying to us or anything, but I think it does a really good job. I don't know if it's a perfect job, right? Plus, not everyone's into the color, because it does turn all your maple into this caramel color, right? I personally love it with the black shark fin. Man, do you go with the red or do you go with the black? That's the big color, right? Let me know down in the comments. The black's pretty good too. And that stain's going to come off, but that's going to be part of the look. Makes it look like it's been played. And for $329, pretty awesome. Let's keep moving, right? We sort of touched on these guitars with the 7-string models that are coming out in the sub 300 category, but we really haven't talked about the King officially. That all being said, we are talking about shapes here. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing here are cosmetic. For example, on this King, you notice that the pickups go from all black to what we call a zebra shape, where it's a white-black or black-white. You see a string-through body. as it compared to a hardtail maybe that's going through. It's sort of a tune-o-matic with a string through, really interesting look, but it's a similar layout for the tone and volume control. And again, the thing that distinguishes the King from the Rhoads is the equally balanced wings on the V. Of course, you get the iconic shark fin headstock, but again, tuners are the same tuners. The maple neck, probably the same maple neck. The pickups, the same pickups. I will say the pickups look different, but when you go down to the bottom here, it says, oh, I probably already missed it, Jackson high output humbucking. Same pickups they've had since the $159 guitar. And again, it's not a knock on Jackson. The pickups were fine. When I've played them, they're fine. They're ceramic. Some people really love them, I'm sure. I think they're fine. When you're talking about student guitars, that's it. But I just find that curious because even Epiphone at this price point, I think we were seeing different pickups. Probably not with Squire until we got to the Paranormal in Classic Vibe series or the Contemporary Active. You can see the adjustable string through body bridge. Again, it's a cool feature, if you're not into, the tremolo systems. It's a cool look, the binding, and you get Ferrari red and you get gloss black. And you can really, I'm sure your parents will love this guitar if you're a kid watching this. And if you're a parent, I don't know what to tell you. So that's the King. This is the Rhoads. Again, everything on this is going to be the same as we just saw with the King. The only difference being is that you can see a little control plate on the black one. When I go to the white one, this is going to be a little more obvious. And I got to say, I like the white one. I like the offset, the white, the black. But again, you get the same zebra pickups. I mean, it's not for nothing. We're not seeing, they're not just throwing extra money at you or telling you to pay more for nothing. You are getting more. It's just not better playing guitar stuff. It's just more, this looks cooler. And that's fine too. $369 is where we're at for this one. Is the black one, sometimes the pricing's different. Yeah, the black one's $329. I don't know why they would price one more. Again, I feel like I'm just turning into a repeating clock. 12 to 16 inch compound radius fretboard, 24 jumbo frets, satin finish, humbucking pickups, 25.5 inch scale length, bolt-on graphite, reinforced maple neck, white plastic binding, plastic nut on all these, by the way. I mean, I don't think you'd expect anything else. Again, I'm not knocking it. It's just, this is what Jackson's doing for their student line. The first time we see a Warrior. Cool shape, right? You get this, not a shape I would play. Because again, I like to sit down and I feel like you could possibly injure somebody with some of these points. It's a cool look though. I got to say, if I was like a 12-year-old and I was listening to like Morbid Angel or something, which by the way, where are your parents when you're listening to Morbid Angel at 12? And yet I knew, again, everything's the same. Same tuners, same pickups, same control system, same neck. They just bolted it onto this thing. String through. Cool. Again, not down on the series. It's just you're just kind of seeing the same option on 5 different bodies, and you just have to pick which body you want. So here's another a lineup in the 7-string. They have multiple 7 strings under sub $500. This is essentially the nice 7-string. You get a quilted arch maple top thing. This awesome headstock that no one seems to like. A 3-way switch. It's a hardtail again. So you get the art maple grain. Also equipped with a 3-way pickup blade switch. Single volume and tone control. 24 frets. 12 to 16 compound radius. Again, we're just going to sound like I'm going again and again. The same features here. The first time we're going to see a Kelly. Did we see a Kelly up here? The first appearance of a Kelly. Again, another iconic Jackson shape. It's sort of their Explorer style. The first time I think we're seeing a Floyd-esque. Yeah, we see it on the Warrior. So you'll notice there's a Warrior version I did kind of skip over. They want $429 for this. So we're starting to hit our limit here, our $500 limit. And again, you're paying more because you're getting a locking nut. You're getting a Floyd style system. This is a Jackson by Floyd Rose, aka Floyd Rose Special, aka Floyd Rose everyone complains about, aka, maybe they could also learn to tune their guitars better, aka there is some genuine issues with the specials. They don't probably hold up as well. I've never actually played an original Floyd. I have gone up to the Floyd 1000. I will say those are better than a special, but You know, if I had a special today, I think I could probably get more out of it. You do get the recessed Floyd too, so you get do all your crazy dive bombs. You know, as a first year student, that's all you're doing is just dive bombs left and right. Again, here's the Kelly. I mean, I just totally blew its introduction. You get it in 2 colors. You get it in Snow White and Ferrari Red. There's a lot of people who are like, I was waiting for this guitar, dude. Love the shape again. Ferrari Red makes me think of Sammy Hagar, right? That's what everyone else is thinking about now. But again, same neck, same pickups, same inlays. The Floyd, that's cool. And it's recessed, and you know what? You can always replace the Floyd if you wanted to, if you wanted to spend the money on that. But it's 24 jumbo frets, ceramic pickups. Guess what? Same pickups. Again, I don't want to be. Is there anything different? No, just the Floyd. The layout's the same. I mean, like I said, it's the first time we see the Kelly. Here's another V. I mean, we're just kind of going through. Oh, so this is the V with the Floyd. First time we're seeing the King V with the Floyd. So that's what you're paying more for, honestly. That's a couple of different color options, which I think are super cool. But again, sends, you know, same pickups, same tuners, same everything. You get the Floyd. And again, I wouldn't recommend this as a first guitar for anybody, but second or third, you know, great price. So you can see the King, you can see the Rhoads in a left-handed, you can see the Kelly. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. I mean, it's a Kelly. This one is a hardtail. It's interesting that the hardtail showed up before the Floyd, so that kind of ruined it. But you can get a cheaper Kelly here. Looks like a string-through body, comes in satin black, or it comes in a burst of some kind. I mean, it's a pretty tough burst to see. But there you go. You know, it's a hardtail. It's a Kelly, 12 to 16 inch compound radius. Let me go back to it real quick. What are the bodies? Are they still poplar at this point? We're still in poplar bodies, which is interesting, considering that we had that $320 special just up here that was offering mahogany. Again, there's the Monarch. This is going to be, you know, the same guitar we looked at. Essentially, it's going to have a quilted maple top. It's purple. You can tell they like the purple in many different styles. You can see it in the Kelly. You can see it in the Rhoads. You can see it in the Dinky. I think the headstock's a little bit of a deal breaker for me on this one especially. It just seems weird. It's a weird little pokey thing. It's $369. Again, you're probably going to see it for sub $300 at this point. Here we go. So this is essentially taking your Dinky arch top that comes in, how many different colors? Satin black. The purple's pretty legit. I do like the satin purple. Again, these are the satin colors. The neon looks like it's gloss, and then you get a nice bright blue. This is the Dinky with the Floyd, which is cool. Dinky arch top with the Floyd. That's what you're paying for. You know, the arch top takes a little bit more, $369, but you know, again, 12 to 16 radius, hot output, humbucking pickups. Ooh, there's a left-handed version. Same price. That was nice of them. The first time we see the Gus G. This is, I think, the first signature that we've run across. First, I mean, technically the Rhoads is a signature. Technically, I guess the Kerry King's a signature. All right, I'm screwing up my own point here, but this is the first time I think we're seeing the artist's actual name, maybe endorsed. I think his name is on the headstock. I think that's the first time we're seeing that. See, I kind of helped myself out of that. I mean, again, I don't love the shape. I don't love that color, but cool. You know, tune-o-matic, adjustable bridge. It's a hardtail. Those two pickups are going to be, let me guess, Jackson high output humbucking pickups with some, you know, some chrome covers on them. Okay, I mean, $400 for the shape. I mean, just know that's what you're getting. So here's an 8-string, under $500. Again, not a first-time guitar. Not a first-time guitar. You get the Jackson hot output humbucking pickups in an 8-string version. You get the cool shark fin. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do with this either. If you're asking yourself, like, what would I do with 8 strings? I can barely figure out what to do with 6 strings, right? That's a lot of tuners. That's a lot of tuners to have to replace. It's a lot of tuners to have to restring. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay, 12 to 16, compound radius, 24 frets, jumbo frets. I think we've discussed this. This is the JS series Dinky arch top. So you get no, we haven't. So technically we haven't. This is the Dinky arch top with the Floyd, and now with the quilted maple art grain top. So they this is a special, thing. So now it's the 32. So again, the JS32, we're gone from the first to the second to the third. JS32Q for the quilted maple top, I'm going to assume. Oh, the A is for arch top. Good Lord, I can't believe I didn't catch that sooner. There we go, Chris. So many people are going to yell at you in this video. So you get the Floyd, the licensed Floyd. You get some cool bursts. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I mean, cool finishes, but again, just know you're paying for the finish and the Floyd, but you can get the Floyd in cheaper models. So it's cool that they give you that option, but just know that's what you're getting. You're not necessarily getting a better guitar. This is an interesting model. They show this as the new finish, poplar body, art grain, burl arch top. You see the other guitar we just talked about, the 32 DKA that had a quilted maple top? That was a art grain. So they did that was a fake maple. They just printed it. Nothing wrong with that again. And it looks good. They did a burl version. So that was their new, I guess they did this at NAMM. Hey guys, we put burl on it. And it's got burl. And I don't know if the burl that really works. Okay. All right. It's $400. I'm sure, again, you probably get it for cheaper, but okay. So we saw the Gus G. Why are we seeing that again? Looks the same to me. There's the Rhoads. A Rhoads with the Floyd. So this is a 449 version. So what am I getting here? So this is where, again, we're getting different colors. Satin gray is cool. It's a Rhoads with a Floyd. Same layout, same pickups, same Floyd we've seen on other models, same neck, same tuners. Cool. But like I said, you are paying for just kind of cosmetic upgrades, or, in this case, I think, is it the first time we've seen a Floyd on this? We probably haven't. We've probably seen it in other colors, maybe. Yeah. Okay, we'll just go over the last three here, starting with the JS series Dinky arch top JS32 DKAM Dinky arch top maple, and it's $400, and it's an arch top, and it's got a maple fretboard, and that's it. I mean, 12 to 16 compound radius, 24 frets. I didn't expect this video to be just like, okay, well, they just did a maple top, an arch top. I knew there was some of that going on, but man, when you just go one right after the other here, it's just a lot. So again, there you go. It's cool. It's cool, but we go back up to the $150 one. Again, let me just show you. It does have the Floyd. To be fair, it is a Floyd, but the Floyds come on cheaper ones too, and they're not. That's not a better Floyd. It's not a better tuning machine. The same tuners is on the $150 guitar. The same pickups is on the $150 guitar. And again, I don't mean this to slam Jackson. I mean this more for you as the consumer to understand that what you're seeing from a higher price range for Jackson mostly comes down to, does it have a Floyd? Does it have a fancy top? Is there 7 strings? Like, look at this one. So there's an arch top 7-string Jackson. Comes in white. I think we saw another version of this in black. Cool. I get that. It's a 7-string. So this is the final, this is like the upper end. This is about as costly as you can get without going over $500. And this, I think, wraps up the JS series too. So they were well aware of where they wanted to place this. Again, I have had a student bring this one in. So what's different about this one, you might ask? What makes this $459 compared to the other Rhoads that had this, that wasn't gold, that they wanted $429 or something for? Well, this body is mahogany. It's unfinished, kind of the unfinished wood, which looks cool. It's got gold hardware, and that's it. I mean, there's so same tuners. They're gold. To be fair, they are gold, but they're the Jackson tuners. It's got a Floyd, same Floyd. It's just the special. It's just, again, it's gold, and the same high output humbucking pickups, but they're, no, they're silver. I thought maybe they'd have gold in theirs, but they didn't. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So boring, right? Sounds like I'm kind of down on this brand, but like I said, I run into these all the time when I'm doing lessons, and the guitars are really good. The body shapes are not my thing. I think some of them are really tough to sit down and practice on, but honestly, I really like the Jackson brand as far as offering a lot of affordable options to students. And one thing they do, they really stand behind some of their product. And like I said, as much as I knock them or seemingly knock them for having the same tuners and guitars and things like that, I really don't. I mean, they stand by their stuff. Like I said, I've never had a problem with their tuners. I've never had an issue with the pickups other than I'm not a ceramic pickup guy. I suspect they're kind of on the cheaper side. And you'll notice that once you get beyond $500-700 guitars in the Jackson lineup, you get different pickups. You usually get some sort of Seymour Duncan thing. I don't know that they have a nicer in-house brand for those Jackson pickups. I'm sure I'll get someone down in the comments who just loves these pickups, and you might. But just know that, again, we're back down to the $150 guitar again. Let's just go back to this just to wrap things up, okay? $150 guitar. Doesn't have a finish. That's fancy, but you get 4 different colors. So if you bought this guitar, what are you missing that you weren't going to get on that Rhoads Flying V? You aren't going to get a Floyd, which if it's your first guitar, you shouldn't have a Floyd. You just shouldn't. I mean, if you got one given to you, that's a whole nother thing. Or if it was your dad's and this is your guitar, that's another thing. But buying one with a Floyd would be ridiculous. This does have a 2-point. Again, I would take that whammy bar and I would throw that somewhere you could lose it for a couple of years because you really wouldn't want to mess with a 2-point trim on a $150 guitar. But the pickups are the same as that $450 guitar. The layout is the same as that $450 guitar. The neck is going to be the same as that $450 guitar. You're not going to get the pearl fin inlays like the $450 guitar, but that's not going to make you a better player. You're not going to get the binding like the $450 guitar, but again, that's not going to make you a better player. And, in the case of Gibson, sometimes they put the nibs over the frets. So maybe you could say, hey, the binding would help for fret sprout, but it's frets over binding here. It's purely aesthetic. So again, it's a great line of guitars, but just know that, the $159 guitar could be just as good as the $450 guitar. There isn't a ton of difference other than a Floyd Rose, or you get a hardtail or a Tune-O-Matic. And again, these are all preferences. So all that being said, I really appreciate everyone kind of sticking around and watching us today. And I really hope you had a great time going through the Jackson line. I wish it was more exciting. I was really hoping, while they did have a great variety of cool looking guitars, what you're finding is that there wasn't a ton of difference from a quality standpoint or upgrade standpoint other than, like I said, a Floyd here, some binding here, or, going from 22 to 24 frets, going from a 12-inch radius fretboard to a 12 to 16-inch compound radius fretboard. Again, if that's your first guitar, how much is any of this going to matter, right? So anyway, thank you so much for watching. For the students who are watching this, hopefully I didn't, crush your dreams of having an awesome Jackson. Again, I really like the brand. I would totally recommend them, other than going into the Floyd direction, obviously. Make sure and like and subscribe if you liked what we saw. We're going to continue this. The students, not just obviously people on YouTube, but the students have really enjoyed this series. I get comments all the time, not compliments, because that I get comments all the time about what they would like to see covered. I did get a couple of comments from students who have the nicer Epiphones and were a little disappointed that I didn't cover the higher end Epiphone. So I may do a part 2 to that where I look into maybe $500 to $1,000 Epiphones. Not all of my students are beginners. I've got some who have been playing for a while and, they've got some nicer guitars. And, they were kind of like hoping that I was going to cover those too. I don't know why they want me to rate or roast their guitar. I'm not a super harsh critic or anything. More of this is just to kind of help parents out or people understand, when Jackson has 60 different models or whatever they've got in the student line series of guitars, what am I getting and what am I not getting? So I hope that this was helpful from that perspective, because I think a lot of folks, hopefully if you're watching this, you're maybe on the fence about a Jackson. Like I said, I totally recommend them. I have no issue with them. If you've had an issue with them, putting it down in the comments. But I like the neck. I like the overall value and the appeal that they have. So not that you need my seal of approval, and I'm not going to give it, but totally a brand I would feel fine investing a couple $100 in. I had one years ago. I got to be honest, I don't remember much about it. I didn't have it for long. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just not something I needed at the time. But I do remember, I think I had that and an Ibanez around the same time. And I remember liking the Jackson a lot more from, again, the Ibanez had the wizard neck. This had the Jackson standard neck that you're going to get on these guitars. And I thought that was the better neck personally. So thank you so much again for watching us. So there's a couple of different ways to follow us. If you're in the Sapulpa area or Tulsa area and you're interested in private acoustic and electric guitar lessons, you can visit us online, www.sapulpaguitaracademy.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, although TikTok is a mystery unto itself, and I'm officially at the age where I don't know if I've got the energy to do it, but I am on there doing something occasionally. So probably way more active on Instagram and Facebook, and of course I'm going to be here on YouTube talking more brands. So like I said, we'll have some more videos lined up. We'll probably talk about Ibanez, Yamaha, things like that. But again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm looking at the time bar now. Hopefully we're not anywhere near this time when you see the edited piece. Hopefully y'all enjoy it. And again, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.